The Tale of the Parasite. It is related that the Caliph al-Walid, son of Yazid of the dynasty of Umar, greatly rejoiced to sit with Tafel of the feast, the lover of good dishes and fine flavors. The famous voluptuary who gave his name to the profession of parasite. Apart from his depth knowledge of foods, this Tafel had a learned wit, a cynical malice, and was ever ready with an opposite rhetor. His mother, by the way, had been taken in adultery. He expressed the whole art and shamelessness of sponging in these lands. He who is invited to a wedding feast must look about as if he felt no less, set off ardently, must enter gently and take the best seat, judging no one else that every guest, might think him quality, must spoil the parter if he will not quail, must scorn the dishes as but rigel. For such a man as he, yet clutch the wine jars close to him and sit nearer the smoking roast than was the spit, which turns in tenderly. Then, as his steel type fingers rip and thrust, and dig the chicken stuffing up, he must cast well-bred glance of surprised disgust at all the company. Such was the code for perfect sponges drawn up in the city of Kufah by the Tafel. The crown and father of them all, here, from 1,000 is one example of his method. At this point, Sherazad saw the approach of morning and discreetly fell silent. But when the 982nd night had come, she said, a notable citizen once invited a few intimate friends to dine off a marvelous confection of milkfish. When the well-known voice of Tafel was heard talking to self at the door, one of the guests cried, Allah preserve us from the sponge. Let us at least save this fine baked fish from his fabulous appetite. Let us set them down in the dark corner and only leave the little ones before us. When he has devoured the small fry and gone his way, we can finish our feast. The bigger fish and scarcely been hidden when Tafel entered, assured and smiling, and threw a casual greeting to the company. After calling upon the name of Allah, he set his hand to the dish, but contented himself with one small, worthless part. The guests were delighted and said to him, "Well, Master Tafel, what do you think of this fish? They hardly seem to take your fancy. I have not been on good terms with fish for a long time," answered Tafel. "My anger against fish is very terrible. My poor father was drowned at sea, and the savage brats devoured him." "Then surely this is a good chance to avenge your father by devouring them," said one of the guests. "Perhaps you are right," exclaimed Tafel, "but wait a moment." His perceived age had already searched out the fine and hidden fish in the corner, so he lifted the smallest part from the dish and held it close to his ear, seeming to listen to its conversation. "Do you know what this little bit of part has been saying?" he asked the lunch, and the guest answered, "As Allah lives, how should we know?" Then said Tafel, "This is what he said. I was much too young to have eaten your good father, but may Allah have in mercy. If you want revenge, apply to the big fish in the corner." For there were the very ones who threw themselves upon the poor old man and called him up. The host and his guests realized that the three naughties of the parasite had wind their device so as well as they could for lucre. They set the fine baked fish before him, saying, "Eat in Allah's name, and might give your horrible indigestion." "And now," said the young man, I will tell you marvel tale of the fire self of destiny, and he began. Buhlul the Jester. It is related that the Caliph Harun al-Rashid kept a jester in his palace to divert his moments of dark humors. This jester was called Buhlul the Wise. One day, the Caliph asked him, "Oh Buhlul, do you know how many fools there are in Baghdad?" "It will be a long list, my lord," answered Buhlul. "Yet, I bid you make it, and make it exactly," cried Harun. Buhlul gave a long laugh and then replied, "As I have no taste for heavy work, I will make you out a list of all the wise men in Baghdad. Those who do not appear upon it will be the fools." This name Buhlul climbed up on the Caliph's throne one day during his absence and received a volley of blows from the office for his temerity. The Sultan came upon him weeping hot tears and tried to console him. But Buhlul said, "O Commander of the Faithful, I do not weep for myself. I grieve because I have calculated how many blows weighed you downstairs." Buhlul was wise enough to have a horror marriage, so Harun, being one day angry with him, married him without his consent to a very beautiful self. But Buhlul had hardly lay down by his wife's side for a moment on the first night before he leaped to his feet and fled from the room, while he was rushing like a madman about the palace. The Caliph came to him and said severely, "Vile fellow, why have you offended against the wife I gave you?" "My lord, there is no remedy for a terror," answered the jester. "I have no fault to find with the bride of your generosity, for she is beautiful and modest, but as soon as I lay beside her, I distinctly heard voice speaking from the deep of her breast. One asked me a robe, another for a sick veil, a third for slippers, and fourth for embroidered bill. So I took fright and fled in spite of your foolish orders." The maidens come, fearing if I stayed to become more foolish and unhappy even than I am. This same Buhlul refused a present of 1,000 dinars which the Caliph offered twice. So Harun asked him to reason of his disinterestedness. "For or so answer," Buhlul stretched out his legs in the Caliph's face. Seeing this supreme mark of incivility, the chief eunuch would have taken the jester up and beaten him. But al-Rashid forbade him and questioned Buhlul concerning his great lack of respect. "My lord," answered the jester, "if I had stretched out my hand to receive your present, I would have forfeited the right to stretch out my legs." One day, as al-Rashid was returning from a warlike expedition, Buhlul entered his tent and found the Caliph parched with this and calling for water. The jester hastened to fetch a cup of water and gave it to him, saying, "O Commander of the Faithful, before you drink, pray tell me how much you would have given for this cup of water if it had been difficult to procure." "It would have given half my kingdom," answered al-Rashid as he drank. "And not that you have drunk," went on Buhlul. "Supposing this cup of water refused to leave your body, owing to some retention of the part of your honorable brother, what would you pay to see if honorably for sorry half of my kingdom?" answered al-Rashid. Then said Buhlul, "I suppose, my lord, that an empire which could be bought for a cup of water and jet of peace is worth the cost of bloody wars." Al-Rashid wept, and Shahrazad said again,